Okay, we're up and live recording. This is Lindsey Huddleston with Sports Psychology Solutions. I want to thank Coach Orlando Watkins for being a super multitasker. He's driving around the city right now, getting the outdoor basketball facility ready for his players over at Northwestern High School. But I have my intern, Mr. Delano DJ Swift himself, representing Monmouth College, Monmouth, Illinois, as he would say, some 45 minutes. Would you say east of Iowa, DJ?
Yep, about
Chance to get
45
over
minutes
Iowa
drive.
when you're out there?
Really, that's the only place to go. There's a mall out there in Quad Cities, about
Wow.
45 minutes, yeah.
So that's saying something when you say Iowa is the big city, huh?
Yeah, I guess that is something, yeah.
But, that's okay, man, for a college student, college athlete. I mean, it's about being focused, man. You don't necessarily need all these, unnecessary distractions.
Right.
You can go party in Miami when you're done with school or on spring break, Well, DJ, when you and I talk, we're probably going to be joined by some more student athletes as we go, but I definitely want to kind of get this going. And maybe this can just be some dialogue for you and I to have. Again, I thank you for coming on board as an SPS intern. And again, thanks to Watkins family for all their support. But when I was reaching out to you in your capacity as a research and production assistant, because you're going to be helping me with some other production pieces too, you're also going to be on the set this Sunday, Fox 47 with Jack Ebling's Press Pass. But when I reached out to you about some things we can talk about as it related to sports psychology consulting, you asked what were some topics we can pull from, and I shared with you 12 rules of flow that include a number of things, but the ones that stood out to you want to talk about today were emotional control and concentration. So tell me why you chose those topics. Let's talk about that.
Emotional control is big for me when I seen it because I remember early and when I played ball, if I lost, I was tears on crying. It was the worst feeling in the world, and sometimes it just you gotta keep that in control. And it took me a while to really learn that it is to some people more than a game. To me, it's it's definitely more than a game. It's a way of life. But it's not the end all be all, and one person I really look at is Damian Lillard. I follow him a lot. He's one of my favorite players, and I heard him talk about a couple interviews. I read a couple articles where he has the mindset of a warrior, where warriors don't show a lot of emotion on the court, where they're cool, calm, collected, because if you give the enemy any type of, hey, he's upset right now, they're going to take advantage of that. He's, angry right now, let's take advantage of that. So if you're able to keep those emotions in check, nobody can really use them against you, if you know what I'm saying.
Wow, man, that's powerful. And you did send me that link. I want to make sure I look at that. A couple things I want to say. What do you think about the idea, and you weren't doing it for this reason, you said why, but what do you think about the idea is that many people feel that if they don't show emotion after a loss, that they don't care? What do you think about that idea, that concept?
I've heard that before, and I when I was little, I think that's probably part of the reason why I wanted to show so much emotion. I wanted to show people that I actually did care about the sport that I was playing, and not only that I was playing, I wanted to win. I cared about being the best on the court at the time. But honestly, I think people get a little too wrapped up in, he doesn't care enough. He's not motivated enough. How do you know? Have you talked to him? Have you sat down and have a conversation? Or do you really know who this person is? And I feel like you'll get more of that off of actually having a conversation with them rather than me crying after a loss of a basketball game. You know what I mean? And when it just comes to just emotion, and the whole aspect of boys aren't supposed to cry, men don't cry. It's okay to let it go if you have that build up. I remember when my freshman year, when we won the Midwest Conference Championship, I ran to my father and we cried each other's arms because it was the first time we had won something. I felt like that's been my guide, my journey, the whole 19 years, 20 years I've been alive. So when we won that, it was my moment to be like, all right, time to get rid of the calm, cool, collected. Let's go celebrate with Pops. I feel like there's certain times to pick it, but when it comes to they don't have enough emotion, and you can tell by the way they play. If they're going out there playing hard, diving for balls, defense, anything, getting buckets, then they got some drive to play. If they don't want to be out there, they'll get weeded out. It's exactly it's just how the game goes.
Well, it seems like, man, you really don't have a choice. It's like, you know, darn if you do, darn if you don't, in the sense that if you show a lot of emotion, it can have a negative effect because you talk about the warrior's way, that you don't want to give your enemy something to go after, and the negative impact it can have on you as far as going forward and what you're working on. But the second part, you get scrutinized in social media if you don't show enough emotion. They talked about players after games, whether it's the NFL, the NBA, or whatever level, kind of joking and, chatting after the loss. So it's like, is it that you either pick a side or what mindset you want to take, or you just don't listen to anybody and do what you feel you need to do?
For me, I just do what I need to do. Opinions are like a-holes. Everyone's got one and they all stink, so, and I learned that from my father's been in my ear about that for a long age. And people are going to think about what they think regardless. You know what I mean? So as long as I go out there and do what I know I can do, then I'm set.
Man, shout out to your dad, Kevin Swift. When you said that, I could just picture him sitting there saying, son, let me tell you about opinions.
Yeah,
That's good stuff, man. Really good. I appreciate that. And just staying on the topic of emotional control, where does that fit in what's happening in life today? We just had you on a great call on the drive with Jack. You did an excellent job talking with, longtime sports broadcaster of the year, several years in a row, Jack Ebling. Where does emotional control fit into sports as it relates to this I don't want to say almost post-COVID-19, George Floyd in the wake of the social unrest and all those things. I mean, these are all real things that are happening. And before you answer that, I remember Tom Izzo saying years ago, and most times whenever his player is having an issue, in most cases it has something to do with something off the court. So how can you be an athlete in 2020 right now and not be impacted in some way or form by COVID-19 or the death of George Floyd?
Right. It's tough. I mean, it couldn't have come at a more, pinnacle tipping point in the United States. There was already so much emotion built up, people having to stay home for months. I know anger, people losing jobs, losing money. And then on top of that, the wrongful killing of George Floyd, it's just everything stockpiled on top of it. So I can imagine I'm feeling it's hard to keep, emotion out of it. You know what I mean? And to really focus on, all right, do I want to, as a black male, do I need to focus on my sports, or do I need to stick with my people, or do I, it's a hard balance. And honestly, I just feel like with me personally, I like to stay in tune and knowledge what's going on. Never been a big political guy, but I like to know what's going on. So if I ever have to have a conversation with somebody, it can come up. But I mean, it's just tough. It's tough to keep that emotion out of it, especially with everything. This is a big movement going on right now.
It is.
Like a big movement going on.
It is.
To be able to keep personal life and athletic life out of it, I can imagine how tough it is.
Yeah, we got Malachi Irving coming on board. Malachi is a very impressive young man. He's been joining us for some of our calls, and I'm going to unmute him and let him get in where he fits in. Malachi, how you doing, man?
I'm doing good, and you?
Man, always good to have you on. We're on right now with Delano Swift, better known as DJ. He is my intern for the summer. Somebody would be good for you to kind of listen to. He's a college athlete. He's at Monmouth College out in Illinois, probably about 45 minutes away from the big city of Quad City, Iowa, right? But what we're talking about right now, Malachi, is emotional control. And we're going to get into some things about concentration, but I couldn't have two better young men right now, because what you've proven, Malachi, that you're a very bright young man, very committed and a great athlete. So I'm going to just briefly recap some great things that Delano has shared, DJ that is, talk about emotional control and being able to either not show your emotions, as Damian Lillard talked about, being like a warrior. Don't show your emotions with the win or a loss, because you don't want, the enemy or the opposite team to be able to see that. But then, sometimes players get scrutinized for not showing, for being too happy and not showing enough emotion or not caring enough and things like that. Have you ever experienced anything like that, Malachi, as a youth athlete?
Actually, sometimes I have.
Okay, talk about that a little bit.
I don't know how to rely on it. I don't know how to speak on it a lot, because it doesn't happen as much, but it happens a little bit, here and there.
You got one time that you can remember?
Not really.
Okay. Okay. Well, that's good. So just to bring you in on what's happening, Delano, I want to go back to a point you just made a second ago that was really kind of like, let's see where this goes, or what we can keep an eye on. You talked about you as a black male, as a black man that is, and being torn between being a part of the protest, being a part of the social awareness and what's going on, but also being an athlete. So what I really want to get at is, what do you think it's like for some athletes who may be on a campus or may be part of a program where they have a coaching staff, and this is even from Malachi for his age as well, a coaching staff, school leadership, boosters, or people around a program who don't want you to identify with what's going on, and you have this fear. Speaking of Iowa, University of Iowa football players, have you heard about what they've been saying? That they felt isolated as African-American players? I mean, we'll look into that a little bit more. But talk about, what do you think about when you hear me say, the challenges athletes may have when it relates to their views? And last thing, they don't even have to wait to go back to campus because of social media. Their Twitter feeds and their social media tell a story. But what do you take from that?
I just had a conversation with my coach the other day. I go to what is known as a PWI, a predominantly white institution. And with everything going on, our president actually did send out a letter, like an email. And in the email, he didn't really address a lot that was really going on. It was a very vague statement. And the students, black students, everybody kind of had a little outrage with it. And he talked to me about it. My coach is from Iowa, older white guy, but he's had black players, black friends, black roommates and stuff. So I know where he comes from. He asked me, hey, do you think my old players would, if I put something on Twitter and saying I'm with the movement, would that make a difference in how they think about me and this and that? And for me, I feel like as a coach, it's not really his job. But from the school aspect, I'm an athlete. They use our face a lot on a lot of the newspapers and articles. They try to get people to come. They use the black face of football players, and we got a couple on the soccer team, and they use us, not use us, but we're the face of a lot of the news articles, and then to have a very vague statement like that.
Part of the marketing program.
Right. So it's very conflicting to me, where it's like, I've had talks with our school president. He's a very nice guy. I've never had a problem with him. And, for me to be, hopefully going to my senior year, I'm the guy on the team next year. I'm supposed to be representing Monmouth College. What are you doing to represent me and my people, us? You know what I mean? And with that, the vague statement he said, I feel like it made a lot of people angry, and they expected more. And I can understand why a lot of athletes could be torn on why would I want to represent this school when this school didn't do very much to say anything or help us out. You know what I mean? And
stop you right there. Malachi, I want you to stand by. I want you to chime in on it. You've always been really bright with your comments, so I want you to be ready. So let me add, so I want to kind of cap that to say, here we are talking about an issue that's a social justice issue. You're at home. You're not on campus. All you're doing is kind of preparing for the season when it comes. How does that impact you, or how can that impact you playing when you return to school? Talk about that, potentially. How could it impact you as an athlete? That's for you, DJ.
Oh, I'm sorry. Well, I thought it was Malachi. What was the question?
No, how could, you as an athlete be impacted almost negatively, your playing ability, if you have a potential conflict with, the administration of the school, or a statement that's being made or not made, whether it's your school or anybody? I'm just trying to draw the connection or make a parallel between when you don't support the players the way they feel they need to be supported, that may impact the product you get on the court or on the field.
Oh, definitely. I mean, it's the same way in professionals if they feel like their contract isn't what they're supposed to be. In The Last Dance, Scottie Pippen, when he was hurt, sat out because his contract was low or whatever, it takes a toll on you, because you feel like, I'm giving my all on this court, risking injury, risking, any health event that could possibly happen. And for you to not support me in every way, it's okay to support me on the court, as when I'm wearing your jersey, that's fine. But when I'm a person, I'm a human being outside of this jersey wearing street clothes, just like you walking down the street, I want to know if you have my back the same way as I'm wearing that jersey. You know what I mean?
Malachi, I want to come to you, but to DJ's last point, I remember a lot of college athletes saying, you guys root for us on Saturday, when we're on the field, but you clutch your purse when I walk past you on the street, those type of things. Malachi, what do you think about what we're saying and how being in a situation where your coach or the school you go to is not supporting the movement that's important to you, and how could that potentially impact you as a youth athlete?
Well, the school I recently went to, there were two men principals, assistant principal and the main principal. They both were Black, and they supported the protest like a lot. Every other day they're posting emails about it, saying what we can do to help, saying what we can do to the school to help. And they just like, they're rooting for us to get through this. Like, they know, like, it's probably tough for some kids because some kids not in the right environment. Like, they can walk outside and you never know. People protesting outside and there's very violence outside. So he's always like checking up on people and stuff. And for me as a young athlete, I don't really focus on it too much. Like, if what I gotta do, I'm gonna do my part and I'm gonna let the rest do theirs. That's all. Like, that's really it.
Great. It's an excellent segue. I can't commend both you young men enough. Being a high school, well, you're a middle school player right now, right, Malachi?
Yeah, I'm going to 9th grade this year.
Would you have thought that he was going to the 9th grade, DJ?
No, I thought he was probably junior, senior, maybe.
See, Malachi's on it. That's great. And that's the same thing for you too, DJ. So that's a perfect segue because we were originally going to talk about emotional control, which was a topic you brought up, DJ. And the other topic was going to be concentration. So now let's talk about what athletes can do when they're going to return to their environment. I was just on a call with Bill Beekman and several other press members last week about how Michigan State is going to phase in their sports and have voluntary workouts. But let's talk about the importance of concentration as it relates to getting back to your school, getting back into your sport, despite all the things that are going on, whether it's dealing with the protests from George Floyd or dealing with the coronavirus. So what does concentration mean to you, DJ, and why did you want that to be another topic that we discuss? And I'm going to pull up something as you're talking right now.
Concentration was important to me because I believe it's a big part in the emotional control. If you're not concentrating on what you're doing, who you're with, and how you're doing it, concentration it's you know what I mean, then it's not going to happen. That emotional, if you're not focused on trying to keep those emotions in check, then they're just going to let loose.
Right.
Yeah, that's
Malachi. When you hear the word concentration, what do you think?
When I hear it, it's basically like anything you concentrate on, your body will follow with it. So like anything you put your mind to, you concentrate, you focus with it, you got to go for it. You're going to reach your goal if you concentrate and keep doing what you got to do to reach your goal.
Great. Very good. What I'm going to do, I'm going to share with you some experts from the upcoming book, The SPS Edge, a guide to mental toughness and mental health in sports and life post-COVID-19. And this is part of the presentation I've given throughout the state of Michigan and other parts of the country with USA Basketball. Concentration, the ability to give your attention or thought to a single object or activity. The mind has been referred to as a wild animal, and when left to its own urges, it will wander. The age of the internet and video games lead to various stimuli on our mental state, and this is why people have such short, brief attention spans today. DJ, when you hear these comments about concentration, what do you think?
I especially agree with the mind has been referred to as a wild animal. If you left it on urges, you know, my father, real spiritual guy, he always talks to me about if you take a picture of your face and split it in half, it's two sides. They don't look exactly the same. And it's your face side and your flesh side. Your flesh side is the side that wants to do all the fun stuff because it feels good. I want to do it. But your faith side is the side who believes in God and stays strong and keep everything concentrated, keep everything in control, that emotional support in check. And I mean, talks with my dad, it really helps me put everything in perspective, and where when my mind feels like wandering like a wild animal, I got to realize that, you know, there's a lot more important things down the road that this might ruin for me. You know what I mean?
Right. Malachi, what do you think about these statements on concentration?
For me, my age group, definitely video games. Most definitely is video games. When how do I put this? Say we take a 14-year-old boy like me, and you say, would you rather play the game or would you rather go work out or something like that? And from my age group, they're going to say play the game because most people, their mindset is laziness now. Like they concentrate on more laziness stuff than what they can be doing to proceed in life, like success.
Yeah, and I would just argue that I don't even think it's your age group alone, and maybe DJ can chime in on that. I mean, I know it's grown men, man, who probably have relationships that are failing because of their commitment / addiction to the game. And I'm not knocking the video game. I'm not a gamer, but you know, people who rush home and they want to just sit up and play the game, and they have their significant other who feel, you know, they're being neglected. What do you think about that, DJ?
I think a lot of it also comes from entitlement, feeling like they deserve it without putting the work in for it.
Oh, wow.
You know what I mean? You know, I you know, like you said, 14-year-old choose between video game and hoop. You know, a real person who will go in there and put the work in. Let's go spend an hour or two in the gym. Let's go do some ball handling, some shooting or something. Those are the ones that go get it. Then you got a guy who want to, you know, I'm gonna play video games instead, and then let's go just hoop outside or at the park later. And he's thinking, well, you know, I didn't put in work, or I deserve it because he thinks he's better than what he actually is. It's the hard work's gonna show.
So you're saying the spirit of entitlement, DJ, will put somebody in a bad position because what they're doing is they're just trying to say, I can have my fun playing my video game, getting my stimulation from that, and still be able to produce. But you're saying if you're a hard worker, you're going to say, skip the video game, I got work to do. Meaning I got to earn it, right?
I mean, like you even mentioned it on the Jack Ebling show on the drive, 5:30 in the morning. You know, there's no excuse for why you can't get up at 5 o'clock. What are you doing at 5 o'clock in the morning where you can't get up and go put an hour of work in? You know what I mean?
Well, you know, I think what happens with that, when you say 5:30, man, you clear the room. You scare people away, and they'll be like, oh, I don't want that, because they have this, you know, slave mentality as it relates to sleep. And I'm really careful with that terminology, but they feel like, oh, I got to get this. Well, the other thing is, if you go to bed early, you can get up and function at that time. But you and I both know that those 5 a.m., 5:30 workouts is serene, is peaceful. You're able to, quote unquote, concentrate. And to be honest, that's what you and I kind of built our bond years ago.
Definitely.
Because you're dealing with the people making moves. Malachi, what we're going to do now, we're not going to always be about just talking. We're going to talk about some solutions as it relates to this. What I want to share with you guys, what I have for the time that remains. And again, I want to thank you guys. You've been very great in this discussion. I'm going to make sure this discussion is available for other people to be able to share. And I want to give you some exercises you can do that can help you with strengthening your concentration. Because like all of us, we're overly stimulated by this device right here, this phone, because we get these stimulations from just looking at things all the time and whatnot. And we want to do something about it. So here's some things you can do. You can practice counting backwards. The idea of counting backwards, let's say from 100, will help you because it forces your mind to pause a little bit. It forces you to think a little bit more. And if you really want to add more to it, you can count backwards in variations. So count backwards in 5. So you go 100, 95, 90, because eventually your brain is going to say, okay, hold on, let me think a little bit more. Let me think a little bit more. Another thing you can do is you can count words. So you can open up a book or pick up a piece of paper and just simply count the words on the paper. Now, DJ, for someone like you and Malachi, who are just really hardworking athletes, these are the kind of things that you need to do to separate yourself, you know, from the others. Sometimes it can just be observing. Can you look at an object and just observe it? A perfect example would be if you had an orange or a grapefruit. Just look at it and look at the dimples on the orange. Look at the little marks and indentations, little things. Now, mind you, before I finish this up, you have people say, oh, you crazy, or why would you do that? But at the end of the day, the people that I talk to with sports psychology consulting, it's the party of the willing. Right now, I got both you guys on here right now, and I'm sure other people will chime in and see it, but you are trying to better yourself, so you have to do what other people will not do. Focus on a single word. This is the practice I got away from, but I need to get back to it, and I'm glad that I'm going to be talking about this in the book. That word can be success. So all day long, all you do is say success over and over to yourself, or you write it down. I had one of my clients, she would even write things down on her wrist so she can look at it and remind herself of that, you know. Another thing would be observing without thinking. Now, this gets back to that whole wild animal thing, DJ, that caught your attention. You know, can you just look at something without putting a thought to it? See, sometimes we have this mentality that we always have to decide on or come up with a decision about something. We have to have an opinion about it. We have to say, oh, I like this, or I don't like this, or this smells good, or it smells bad. Can you just observe it? Now, that's one of the practice of mindfulness that we'll talk about maybe on the next class, is being able to be non-judgmental and present in the moment. And the last thing, can you observe and conjure up? So can you look at something, maybe a piece of art, and then come up with some other ideas? All these are little exercises you can do to help your mind not wonder. Because it's been once said, the hardest thing a man or woman can do is sit alone in a room with their thoughts. A lot of times people don't want to be alone with their thoughts because they're fearful that they're going to be overrun with all these negative things. But what I tell my clients is that you want to get to the point, DJ and Malachi, that the thoughts can just pass through. You can have some horrible thoughts. It can be some reference to some trauma that's happened in your life. It could even be what's happening in the world right now with COVID-19, as well as the murder of George Floyd. But instead of those thoughts coming into your brain and staying there and creating anxiety and being this negative thing, you can work on the practice of letting those thoughts pass through. And that's something you guys can keep in mind. So with the time I have for both of you guys, what do you take from these concentration exercises? What does that make you think about?
I like it. The focus on a single word, I really like that. I just watched a UFC The Walk yesterday of John Jones versus Alexander Gustafsson, I think his name, the second fight. And they basically just did like a little documentary pre-fight, and he did before his fight the night before with positive notes, scriptures, and verses would tape him around his hotel room. So no matter where he went, he was always seeing something positive and focusing on that. That was his concentration for tomorrow. So I really like that one.
I want to stay on that for a second before I go to Malachi. Now, I kind of alluded earlier that people can look at these practices and these exercises and say, why would you do that? But you just referenced someone who fought a UFC fight. He was successful in the fight, DJ?
John Jones is a champion. He's one of the best UFC fighters. Now.
So he found it necessary to go through some type of exercise list to become a champion. So I'm saying it's not just you two guys, but if you want to do something nobody's ever done, you got to do something you've never done before. You have to separate yourself. And this is what it takes. So every way he went, he saw these positive affirmations. That's great to know. Malachi, what's your thoughts on these concentration exercises?
There's something new for me. Like, this is my first time hearing it, and I'm going to try it.
Okay. Well, I'll tell you what, and you hold me to this. When this book comes out at the end of the month, I want to make sure you get a copy, okay? I got a copy just for you. And that way, this information will be there for you. And as stressful as it can be writing a book and trying to have a deadline, I'm reminded how important it is to put these type of things in there. So with that, I'm going to look at you're absolutely welcome. Look at wrapping things up. So what I'll do with the time we have, DJ, do you want to give any closing remarks, any closing thoughts? I definitely want you to continue to be very vocal on this platform while I have you. As a matter of fact, probably going into next week with the guests we have, I look to continue to have you being a vocal person in this. You've been doing a great job. But any thoughts you have to kind of wrap up what we've talked about before we get out of here?
Nah, I just want to say thanks for the opportunity. I'm excited for this summer. And Malachi, you got a good head on your shoulders, man. Keep going the way you're going. I like you.
That's awesome. Malachi, what do you have to wrap up for us?
Nothing really. It was a good meeting, good call. I actually had a question. DJ, what college do you go to?
Monmouth College. It's a small Division III school. Yeah.
Are you in Michigan now?
Yep, I'm back home now. I'm in Lansing.
Is it okay if we set up something? We can go outside to the track or something, run or something?
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
Okay. Well, I'll make sure when we get off of here through Orlando, and I want to thank Orlando too. We see his name up, we don't see his. I want to thank him because Orlando has been the one to make sure we've been able to organize this, and because of him, we're able to connect with the Malachis of the world. So I want to thank you, Orlando. I want to thank Michelle Watkins, Mimi Watkins, always supporting me on my SPS Monday Motivations. Kyrie Jefferson, I'll be on the phone with her tomorrow. She's down in Florida right now doing her thing, working hard, getting ready for some great track results. So for the sake of time, let the record show. We started at 6 p.m. We're wrapping up at 6:35. It don't take a long time to put in that work, right? So
Yes,
with
sir.
that, this will be available for you guys on YouTube as well as other social media platforms. And when we get off here, I'll make sure that we can connect both DJ and Malachi. So thank you guys, and we'll be back at it. More likely, we'll look at going at next Thursday as well. But I appreciate you guys, and I'll talk to you soon.
Thank you.
Appreciate you, Lindsay.
Okay.